where the Gathering of Christ Church, Elder Ricochet, issues this challenge. If any Israelite out there can prove to me using the Bible that Cornelius was an Israelite, I don't want to hear you go to Acts, the 2nd chapter, where everybody was there out of all these nations, okay, out of all the nations that took the gospel back, because you can't prove Cornelius was there. Okay? I don't want to see you try to go to Revelation, the 7th chapter, where it says all people out of every nation and kindreds and tongues. After it broke down the 12 tribes of Israel in the verses prior, don't try to go there because Cornelius isn't there either. It doesn't say Cornelius. So make sure you clip this, AC. If any Israelite out there who claimed that Cornelius was an Israelite, if you can prove that, number one, whatever church you belong to, and my word is bond, I will donate as an offering out of my own money $1,000 to your church. We will dismantle the Gathering of Christ Church, and we will join up under you and apologize for ever saying that Cornelius was anything else outside of an Israelite publicly. And you'd have to, listen, you can't prove it privately. You got to prove it right here. And I'll be quiet and say, okay, show us out of the Bible that Cornelius was an Israelite. And I'll be absolutely silent. That's fair. If you can't prove that Cornelius was an Israelite, you would have to apologize and say, I'm sorry for emphasizing or bringing forth something that's false or inconclusive. You would say, I apologize and I'm willing to go back and learn before speaking going forward. Does that sound fair to you, Elder?
Sir?
That sounds fair, right? That sounds fair. If you can't, you would apologize. That's it. And say that, okay, I'm going to do further study. But I'm going to tell you why you're not going to be able to do it. I'm going to tell you why you don't want to admit that Cornelius is a Gentile or Edomite. Because if he's a non-Israelite, it's all the same. That means you'd have to switch up everything you're teaching. See? You have to switch everything up because you have a full doctrine just based on hating other people. And you're blinded by that hate. And through that blindness, you're seeing the scriptures through error.
Here comes a new challenger!
Shalom. I want to start off by giving all glory and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. And peace and salutations to the hopeful elect who are continuing to fight and teach this thing of ours in truth and sincerity. I'm the brother Manatazak with GMS Ancient of Days in Los Angeles, currently teaching with the Akim in Sherman Oaks. And today, through the Spirit, I'm going to get into a lesson that's going to be a response to Elder Rakah of the GOCC in his $1,000 challenge, proving Cornelius was an Israelite. Now, there's been a whole plethora of lessons that have been done on this in the past. And to be honest, this isn't about trying to get money from Elder Rakah. He can keep his money. Okay, where we are sent, and when I say we, I mean the true prophets of Yahweh Shem Shai are sent to be defenders for the gospel. Okay, and that's what this is about. You can keep your money. Okay, now you heard himself in his statement that he's telling us to prove that Cornelius is an Israelite using the scriptures, and that it can't be done. But he also went and listed scriptures that we can't use as a proven point. But don't the scriptures themselves say that all scripture is profitable for doctrine? So you're already going off, okay, in your opening challenge. Okay, but I digress. Okay, Lord willing, this lesson is edifying to the hopeful elect. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the scriptures and I'm going to prove, okay, using the scriptures, okay, and using them in context to show that Cornelius was an Israelite foreigner. Okay, now I have some bullet points that I wrote down, and Lord willing, this lesson is edifying to the hopeful elect. For those with the eyes to see and the ears to hear, because we know, pursuant to end time prophecy, that in the end times there's going to be false prophets and false doctrines on the rise, and we're starting to see that almost every week. There's a change to the doctrine, or some new revelation that's going off from what was taught in the past. And this is somebody that goes all the way back to 1 West. Okay, but you should already know that this leader is off if he's teaching his congregation that Edomites can make it, if he's teaching that there's a such thing as mermaids, if he's teaching that the only begotten son's name is Christ. Okay, these should be red flags just off the jump. Okay, but like I said, my first bullet point is proving Cornelius was not a heathen. And when I say heathen, I mean an actual Gentile, but he was an Israelite in a Gentile state of mind who had been Hellenized. Okay, not unlike us who have woken up to this truth. Okay, walking around Babylon the Great, calling ourselves African American and Hispanic and Native American, all these proverbs and bywords of our captivity before we woke up to the truth. Okay, we were in a Gentile state of mind. Okay, this shouldn't be hard to be understood. Okay, especially for us who are coming into the truth, because we were in the same mindset as Cornelius. Okay, now Cornelius was described as a devout man who feared the God of Israel, and that's very important to establish, because when you go into the definition of devout, it means having or showing deep religious feelings or commitment. Okay, and a heathen is not going to feel that, because the law, statutes, commandments were never given to them. Okay, to serve the Lord as such. It was given to the Israelites. Now, true indeed, we were meant to be set up to be teachers and leaders of the way, but that's not going to be fully established until the kingdom of heaven. In the meantime, okay, we are meant to turn back to those righteous paths and keep the laws, statutes, commandments to the best of our ability. And in doing so, there's a certain criteria that needs to be met. Okay, and what we're going to do, we're going to begin in the book of Acts chapter 10. And once again, Lord willing, this lesson is edifying to the hopeful elect. Acts chapter 10, beginning at the top. Okay, because this is going into Cornelius having a vision. It says, there was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band. And when you read this first verse, people are automatically going to assume, oh, the Italian band, he must have been a Gentile or a heathen. Okay, and a centurion, I believe, is a general over 100 men, I believe. Okay, verse 2, it says a devout man. We just read the definition of devout, but that's very important, because this is a term that is used to describe an Israelite. Okay, devout was never used in the scriptures to describe someone of a heathen nation. Okay, It says, a devout man and one who feared the Most High with all his house, which gave much alms to the people. Which people? The Israelites. Okay, and prayed to the Most High always. Okay. Now, once again, Cornelius is described as devout and one who feared the Most High and gave alms to the people and prayed continually. These are all traits of the Israelites: giving alms and being charitable. Okay, praying to the Most High. All right. Now, what's important to understand with that is that Yahweh Shemashai only hears the prayers of the Israelites. So the fact that he believes so fervently and he's praying, okay, shows that he must be an Israelite, and we can prove that with John 9 and 31, St. John chapter 9 and 31. Okay, and it reads, now we know that the Most High heareth not sinners, but if any man be a worshiper of the Most High and doeth his will, him he heareth. Well, how can you do the will of the Most High if the law, statutes, and commandments were never given to you? Okay, the law, statutes, and commandments were only given to the Israelites. So the Most High hears the prayers of those who keep his commandments. Okay, so for Cornelius's prayers to be heard, okay, as in Acts 10 and 4, right? He must be an Israelite keeping the faith, okay, not a heathen. So let's jump back to Acts 10 and 4 just to prove that. Okay, doing a little Hebrew hopscotch, but it's necessary so you can get the context of the lesson. All right. So we began in Acts 10. We read verses 1 and 2. So let's go back to Acts 10 and read 3 and 4. It says, he saw in a vision, evidently about the 9th hour of the day, an angel of the Most High coming into him and saying unto him, Cornelius. And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, what is it, Lord? And he said unto him, thy prayers and thy alms are come up for a memorial before the Most High. Okay, so this is proof that he was an Israelite. All right, now let's get Psalms 34, beginning at verse 15. Psalms chapter 34, beginning at verse 15, it says, the eyes of the Lord Yahweh Shemashai are upon the righteous, and his ears are open unto their cry. Okay, it says, the face of the Lord Yahweh Shemashai is against them that do evil, to cut off the remembrance of them from the earth. The righteous cry, and the Lord Yahweh Shemashai heareth, and delivereth them out of their troubles. Okay, so the Lord heard his cry, he heard his prayer. Okay, but for those that this doesn't apply to, like the heathens, the Lord isn't paying them any mind. Okay, there was even an account, I forgot exactly where it was, where the heathens prayed to the Most High and he didn't hear them. Okay, so this idea has been substantiated in the scriptures already. All right, and here's the problem when you don't teach and in understanding that the Israelites were scattered amongst the Gentiles. Okay, because as the apostles and elders always bring up, we're not gonna all look like John Shaft, okay, or Wesley Snipes. All right, not to say that Cornelius looked like that, but just the way it's described with him being a part of the Italian band, people assume that he was a so-called white man, which is not the case, because that would be like assuming someone that's in our modern day military or police establishment, okay, is of another nation. But you have all kind of Israelites that are a part of that to this day. So why is it any different okay in the past? All right, let's get Hosea 8 and 8. The book of Hosea. Yeah, Hosea chapter 8, verse 8. It says, Israel is swallowed up. Now shall they be among the Gentiles as a vessel wherein is no pleasure. Okay, so Israelites were scattered and lived amongst Gentiles, which should be easily understood. That was one of the main curses that befell our nation. Us so-called Negroes, so-called Hispanics, and so-called Native Americans, the diaspora, the scattering of the Israelites, okay, where we were being called by Gentile names and took on Gentile customs. Okay, Cornelius, as a centurion in the Roman army, fits the prophecy of Israelites dwelling among the nations, yet retaining the faith. Okay. So let's go into an account where the Israelites were called Gentiles in the New Testament, just to bring up a more recent example. Let's get 1 Corinthians 12 and 2. Okay. 1 Corinthians chapter 12 and 2, it says, ye know that ye were Gentiles carried away unto these dumb idols, even as ye were led. Okay. So the reason I brought this out is to show Apostle Paul calls the Corinthians Gentiles in the past tense. Okay. Showing that Israelites who followed pagan ways were regarded as Gentiles, but were still Israelites by blood. Okay. Cornelius would fall into this category. All right. Once again, likening it onto us before waking up to the truth, but living, as Babylonians or Americans. Okay. But ultimately, the gospel is for Israel, even those that were scattered. Okay. And we can prove that in the book of John, chapter 7. John chapter 7 and 35, which reads, then said the Jews among themselves, whither will he go, that we shall not find him? Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? Okay, so this is going into the Israelites. The Jews during that time expected Yahushua to go to the scattered Israelites living amongst the Gentiles. Cornelius is a part of this dispersed group. Okay, Israelites living as Romans. But this is speaking about Yahushua coming to the Americas, teaching the Israelites that were in the northern kingdom that had been separated from the southern kingdom. Okay, but this is just going to show that we were scattered. All right. Let's see. It's so many different ways to cut this. Let's go into the adoption. Okay, Romans 9, which is a beautiful chapter, because the adoption clearly belongs only to Israel. All right. With Romans 9, we can begin at verse 3. It says, for I could wish that myself were accursed from Hamashiach for my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh, who are Israelites. Okay. To whom pertaineth, meaning belongs to, the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of the Most High and the promises, whose are the fathers, and of whom, as concerning the flesh, Hamashiach came, who is over all, Most High blessed forever. Amen. Now, why did I bring that out? Okay. It's to show that all promises, covenants, and adoption belong to the Israelites. So if Cornelius received the Holy Spirit and was part of the covenant blessing, he had to have been an Israelite. Okay. Plain and simple. Okay, let's get into the account of Peter's vision. Okay, because Peter's vision was about Israelites, not heathens, in the book of Acts. Okay, Acts chapter 10. Let's get that. Acts chapter 10, and I'll get straight to the point. Acts chapter 10. See verse 28. It says, and he said unto them, ye know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another nation. But the Most High has showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. Okay, going into Peter's vision. This is showing you that this wasn't speaking about animals. This is speaking about nations. Okay, the unclean that Peter refers to is not about literal heathens, but Israelites in an unclean state due to Gentile customs. Okay, let's get Ezekiel 4 and 13 to give better understanding of that. All right, Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 13. It says, and the Lord Yahushua said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, whether I will drive them. Okay, so this is just showing the similitude of the defiled bread. Okay, representing actual defiled bread and our food being tainted, but also showing that this is speaking about the Israelites as well, being among the Gentiles. Okay, let's see. And this is important too, because this vision was symbolic of Israelite foreigners like Cornelius being accepted, which is why the story of Cornelius is so controversial. because people will use this as a way to bring the Gentile nations in. But even when you go into the etymology of the word, it goes into Israelites. It doesn't go into actual heathens, which is why it's important to understand the context of what you're reading. Otherwise, you could take one idea and it'll lead you down a rabbit hole of deception. Okay? Now let's get into account of the scattered Israelites returning. Okay? In the book of Tobit, in the Apocrypha. Let's see. The book of Tobit, chapter 13. I'm just going to get the point. Tobit chapter 13, verse 3. It says, "Confess him before the Gentiles, ye children of Israel, for he hath scattered us among them." Okay, and this is in the Apocrypha. Further showing, the Israelites were scattered among the nations, but remained his people. Okay, Cornelius represents one of these scattered Israelites, acknowledging the Most High among the Gentiles. Okay, now the last account I want to read through the Spirit, because I believe the point has already been made, and brothers have already done lessons and responses to this. This is just my spiritual 2 cents through the Spirit, because I was compelled to make a response. Let's get the Israelites serving in foreign armies, just to show you that this is nothing new, even unto this day. The book of 2 Maccabees in the Apocrypha, chapter 6, beginning at verse 6. Okay, and it reads, "Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient feasts, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. And in the day of the king's birth, every month they were brought by bitter constraint to eat of the sacrifices. And when the feast of Bacchus was kept, the Jews were compelled to go in procession to Bacchus, carrying ivy." It says, "Moreover, there went out a decree to the neighbor cities of the heathen by the suggestion of Ptolemy against the Jews, that they should observe the same fashions and be partakers of their sacrifices. And whoso would not confess themselves to the matters of the Gentiles should be put to death. Then might a man have been the present misery." Now, the reason I brought this out in summary, okay, is just to show that the Israelites were forced by Antiochus to forsake their laws and live as Greeks, okay, adopting Greek Gentile customs. But many of the Israelites served under foreign rulers and armies. Okay, Cornelius being a centurion in the Italian band doesn't make him a Roman by blood. Okay, it reflects his Hellenized servant status. Okay, and it's no different now when you have Israelites who are currently serving in this nation's military and this nation's armed forces. Okay, it's no different. That doesn't make them part of that nation. They're still Israelites by blood. They're just quote unquote Hellenized or Babylonianized, whatever you want to call it. They're still in gross darkness. Okay, it just so happened Cornelius was an Israelite who was a part of the Roman army, but he knew where he came from, and he believed in Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. It's plain and simple. Okay. Now, if I was wicked, I'd put my fucking Cash App in this video and have you send it to me. But this isn't about money. You can keep your fucking money. This is about the truth. Okay. And Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai is making it plain and clear, as you can see, who he's dealing with, because you got these leaders of these congregations waxing worse and worse. Okay, for all of Israel to see. Okay. So, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying to the hopeful elect. I want to give all glory and honor to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. And peace and salutations to the hopeful elect who are continuing to fight and teach this thing of ours in truth and sincerity. This has been your brother Manatazak. Until the next lesson, Shalom.